Hey everyone, James here again, and I want to welcome you to a very special video edition of the Inside Music Podcast. This is technically episode 200 of our show. It's taken 5 years to get here, but we're finally at the summit, 200 episodes. And what comes next? Well, episode 201, to be honest with you. We've already recorded it. But this is a big deal for me. I never thought that we'd get here, and I'm so excited to be with you today to share this clip. I spoke to Ron Winters, otherwise known as Ronnie Winters of the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, just last week, and we did it over Zoom as a video call, so you get to see that call right here on YouTube today. I'm really excited to share it with you. We cover the early days of the band, when Face Down and My Guardian Angel really found their audience, as well as the group's most recent single, Brace Yourself, and how it became this unexpected quarantine hit. Now, before I let you get to the conversation, I do want to mention that Inside Music is available right here on YouTube every single week, as well as on our blog, holicsdaily.com, as well as Spotify, Apple Music, Stitcher, and any other podcasting app that you prefer. So if you like this show, and I really think you will, please consider subscribing to us here or somewhere else. We'd love to have you. But for right now, just enjoy my conversation with the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. Well, I mean, I want to dive into it, but let's start real simple. Like how you living? How you surviving right now?
I'm good, I've lived by the one day at a time mentality for a long time before this all hit, but it's just the same stuff you hear a lot of parents talk about. Like, it's such a huge part of my life that a lot of rock and rollers, they'll post pictures on Instagram, but they don't really get into the details. And we've been a band for 17 years, so this is the longest I've ever been off the road ever in a 17-year span. So if you do anything that long, 17 years straight, it's different having this much of a change. But we had long gaps at home, but this is the longest. So just really have become like a full-time co-parent, which I think has been fun. And diving into that, just working with my kid a lot and my wife, and like working with him, learning, and we're kind of like definitely homeschooling, but he's only 3.5, so we won't get credit for it. But we're basically homeschooling. We're just doing that. But also, I got all this new music coming out and lyric videos, and the single's doing well. So I'm still staying busy. I'm doing live streams every week for free, and have been for like the last 8 or 9 weeks straight. So a lot of people have really been stoked about that I've been able to keep it going in the midst of all of this. That's pretty much what I've been up to.
I like it, man. I have a lot of friends that are musicians with kids, and everyone was like, I can't believe I get all this time at home with my kids. And now that we're like at day 60, 75 for different people, they're like, I'm ready to go back on the road.
Yeah, I heard that. Well, for me, it's just like, when you do something that long, that many years in a row, definitely you get to a routine. Even with touring, you're used to a routine like anybody with any job. So it's definitely weird having that shaken up. But at the same point in time, I'm not going to lie. For somebody who has to travel as much as I do for the long hours and and the things that you miss, it has been nice being home for him this whole chunk of time uninterrupted. I don't think that ever would have happened for somebody like me, especially with putting new music out that's doing well. Naturally, that's when you stay on the road. That's when you take less days off and book more shows. So it's been an interesting contrast to have us to put out a single during this, because we didn't wait or hold back. We dropped the single. So it's been interesting, definitely different.
I can imagine. And the single is very timely. It's called Brace Yourself, for anyone listening to this that hasn't heard it yet. And I'm curious, when did you write and record this song?
Yeah, it's, songs take a life of their own. We learned that way back in 2006 with a song that became a hit all on its own on our record called Your Guardian Angel. And, it's a sad song. It's more of like a breakup song if you listen to the lyrics. But next thing you know, like every person we talked to was using it in their wedding. I mean, it became this wedding song. And it's like, of course, we didn't sit there and write the lyrics about a wedding, but it totally made sense to me after I saw the first couple of people do it. And then I even sang it at one of my friends' weddings before it was recorded and released, when it was still just a song in my head, and they had heard me singing it around my house because they were close friends. They're like, hey, can you come play that song you're always singing all the time? Which later turned into that. So the reason why I went into that long explanation is Brace Yourself is the same way. Josh's mom, Linda Burke, she went through a whole battle with cancer last year, and it was like pretty wild and intense. And I went and visited her after she had finished treatment and rang the bell, which is something they do to signify kind of victory and the treatment worked, and that you've conquered just like addiction. Like, it's just a hard thing to conquer. So anybody who's been through the cancer thing is very similar to somebody who's gone through a 12-step, and you really just kind of look at life different for the rest of your life. So she kind of sat me down and played me this this slideshow of all the things that she had gone through, and was giving me kind of just tips on living healthier and stuff. And it just really stuck to heart. So like, that's when the lyrics were written. Right after I had that meeting with her, I kind of wrote this as an inspirational song for anybody who was going through something like this. And then when the pandemic hit, we were having the lyric video made, and the concept art that was bounced back to us was very like, what you see today. And I was like, whoa, well, that's definitely not what the song's about, but like, I love it. Like, you know what? And I gave them, they only sent me like a 15-second thing, and they were a little nervous that I'd be afraid to put it out because it could be received the wrong way. And I was like, it's a positive song. If somebody listens to it, they're going to understand that. And if they take it wrong, they were already going to be that way on that day anyway. So you know what? Go for it. So they let it rip with that kind of mentality. And then it went viral all over the place in Asia. And first responders have really kind of like grabbed the song and said that it was their battle cry. So again, nothing we expected. How can you say you expect that when you're literally just putting out a punk rock song? But it's happened before with songs like Face Down. So I wouldn't say we're used to it, but we like it. We like it when it resonates and when people really understand, what we're trying to do. We could have easily just not put the song out like a lot of people, but we went for it. It's doing okay.
I mean, I think it's really smart, especially if you see, for people that haven't yet, check out the lyric video for it. You guys really kind of lean into the unintentional timeliness of the lyrics with the design of your lyric video.
Thank you. We do. And again, so, we never have claimed that we wrote this like during the quarantine or even recorded it. This was all planned for the emergency EP, which was coming out this year. We just didn't hit the stop button like a lot of people, and everybody has their own decision to make. But for us, it's like, hey, we're going through this just like you guys are, so you can't just stop taking care of your business all of a sudden, even if you're working from home, which clearly you and I are both doing right now, Yes. So we're trying to show by example that, hey, we're going to push forward and stay positive, and, because this is all going to end one day.
Absolutely. And it is funny how the artists that have chosen to move forward with their releases, especially in rock, punk, and metal worlds, things do seem weirdly timely now. And I know from talking to people and just from understanding the business, I'm like, no, all this stuff was written a year ago at least. No one was like, we needed a song mid-March and now we're sitting on with the lyric video now. This is all stuff that just, for whatever reason, we spoke into existence the soundtrack we would need right now.
It's fascinating, isn't it? And I gave you my examples because Josh's mom had gone through that last year. So it was just so fresh and it really impacted me. So, that's how I write lyrics. I write lyrics about things that I've actually gone through. So that meeting that we had, when she shared all those things with me, I felt like I had gone through them with her. And that's why we tell people stories. That's why we share things with each other so they can understand what happened to us. And then, that opens up to a level of empathy that you never would have had unless you sat there and watched that brutal, real story and saw, hey, this is what I suffered. This is what I endured. And here's how I am today. It's inspiring. So for me, it inspired the lyrics, definitely 100%.
Well, that's great, man. It's funny you bring up My Guardian Angel, because that is a song that I look back on and it felt like it became a fan phenomenon entirely out of your hands, where it was like, I remember seeing you guys on your first headlining tour for the first record and being like, I didn't realize, I was like, did they put this out and I didn't get a press release? Like, how did this thing become, why does everyone recognize this song that isn't necessarily being pushed anywhere yet, but it was the song everyone knew?
It was definitely awesome to see for the band, because there's another version of that we put out way before we were signed called Ronnie's Acoustic Song. That was the title. And the label didn't like that. They were like, it sounds a little, and we're like, okay, fine. I wasn't obsessed with the title anyway. We didn't know what else to call it because it was the only one that I had. So, fast forward a couple years later and it's kind of, become this mega hit, which it still is today. I'm telling you, we anytime we do big shows, the crowd sings that song as loud as they do any other song in any band's set. It's really remarkable to see how many people know that song and then have somebody else go like, oh yeah, I know this song. And really, you find out later that they don't know that the songs are connected. That's what I'm trying to explain. There's a lot of people who don't know that the same band who did False Pretense did Face Down, and the same band who did Face Down did Guardian Angel. When they make that connection and it kind of lights up, it's really hilarious for us. But yeah, there was no press release originally. We filmed a video for it after it was already a hit. And now that video's got like, you know, a kabillion views too. So it was just one of those songs, again, that people made their own. It's also a funeral song. You know, it's a song that people play at people when they pass. You know, again, who's going to sit down with a piece of paper and be like, this is a song that they're going to play at funerals? I'm feeling, you know, like, I'm sorry, but that's not me. But it was so cool with tears coming down their face. You know, I've been at some of these ceremonies where people have asked me to play the song in the slideshow, and of course to say yes. And I've been at the ceremony kind of, you know, in hiatus, hair tucked back, you know, out of respect, and seen the people cry when the song comes on. And I've seen the power, and I'm like, that is not something that you can ever say that you did on purpose. You know, it just happens sometimes.
And it's funny because those emotions of, you know, intense love and intense loss, they can be so close to one another. So it is very fascinating how people will cling to it and make it their own. And I saw a quote from Jason Isbell last week where he said, you know, as a songwriter, I don't think we should ever tell fans that's not what the song is about, because that's, you know, trying to control how they're experiencing it. And instead, just kind of be happy that they think it's about anything.
I'd have to agree with that at this age. I mean, when I was a 22-year-old angsty punk rocker, I probably would have said, you know, forget that guy. But like, you know, where I'm at now, I'd have to fully agree with that. And, you know, age is wisdom, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, there's a time, like you said, when you're first starting out, you're like, these are the things that need to be said, and I need people to hear me say these things. And then you realize, like, you can build a career on that for a while, but then at some point you're like, I've got to be the soundtrack to their life as much as I'm writing my story. And I feel like you've been able to transition that way, maybe through having a song like Guardian Angel take off the way that it did. It was like, oh, you kind of lose the ego in it, where it's just like, oh, this is about way more than what Ron wants.
Absolutely. It was an educational experience. And I mean, I've never forgotten it. And, you know, there are other songs too. It goes on and on. There's another one called Unfinished Business, which is kind of what a lot of people are calling Guardian Angel 2. And again, we never pushed that as a single. There's no video, but it gets tons of Spotify plays all over the world. And I already know that. And then I did it on a live stream, and everybody was, you know, commenting and texting the lyrics in real time. So, you know, they're not looking it up beforehand, because I didn't release my set list. So I've been using these live streams as ways to test our fans that have been going on, and it's been really fun. And that's something I never would have done before. I'll be honest. I probably never would have I never would have thought twice about it. And there's some other artists who are definitely killing us in social media. if you look at that stuff, because we've always just kind of been like guys in a band. Like, that's really who we are. Yeah. We've never tried to master that craft, or even, you know, engage other than how we think regular people do. That's how we've ran our social media for so long now, that people are used to it. So if we made that switch into this more slick, marketed professional approach, I don't know if it would go over well, because everybody's like, whoa. But they can't call us sellouts or one-hit wonders, because we already did that in 2006. So it's like, what are they going to say this time? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it is interesting to watch people embrace the digital space in their various ways. I feel like, you know, I'm a longtime Atari's fan. I feel like Chris Rowe is on Instagram Live every day for like 8 hours, just like crushing the hits. Like, he's just taking requests and playing guitar. And I'm like, man, I can't play guitar that much if I want to, that many hours a day. And he's just like churning out the fan engagement. I was like, I don't know, man. It's impressive to see, but it's not how everyone can do it, for sure.
I'm glad you mentioned that guy, because he's always been a worker. And those are the bands, you know, like I said, we're 17 years, no hiatus, no breakups. So like, you know, the Ataris, they've been there the whole time. I mean, I've seen them many times, many different versions of them, and he was always awesome and on point. And that's just how you protect your name later. You know, that's how you do it right. So like, you know, some bands come and go, but I don't think he's going anywhere. And I'm a fan personally, so I'm glad you mentioned him.
He's hardcore till the wheels fall off. And even in the times when the wheels have arguably fallen off, he's still like been somewhere playing for whoever would show up, whatever they want to hear, doing it. And that's like, that's how you have a career in this industry in a nutshell. I mean, you guys, like you said, 17 years of breakups. And I remember when you did like your acoustic tour and stuff like that, you got rid of the long hair, which you have again now, but there's a while there you got
Yeah,
rid of your signature look, and it was like, oh, there's a new Ron here now. We'll see what's happening
yeah,
here. You just keep going.
that's true. It was a full change, and it was all part of a process that I was going through, and that's life. And like, it's so funny. It's so funny to look back later and be like, okay, that was definitely me then. And,
Yeah.
I definitely did do that for a reason. I didn't want to walk on stage and be recognized as the face down guy right away. I wanted to
Hmm.
just be a guy who was singing, opening up for Secondhand Serenade. And I didn't,
Yeah.
and sometimes I would wait. Sometimes I would open up with like face down right away on purpose, just to
Hmm.
shock people, because I
Yeah.
knew they didn't think that that's who I was. And sometimes I would wait until like the third song and then play it and be like, oh yeah, I'm that guy. And everybody would start laughing. But the fact is nobody recognized me when I walked in. And that's what I
Hmm.
wanted. I had never done an acoustic tour that whole time where just I'm sitting there. It's so different to just have a guitar and you. And John, by the way, from Secondhand, pretty much started that way. So this dude is a master. He's been doing it a long time. He knows how to control a crowd without a band, and we're friends. So there's a little bit of that. Okay, I'm not almost ever nervous. I'll be honest with you. I have a really great band. So no matter who we're opening up for or for headline, I don't ever feel like we're going to be outplayed. That's an honest statement. But when it's just you and an acoustic guitar, it's completely different. It's like, man, I have to be on point tonight because I know John's going to be from Secondhand. So I think it really helped me, and I became a better singer. And then when I felt more confident, both in sobriety and my performances, I went right back to what we used to do. And I'm just a better version now.
Well, I mean, it's a good version. I like it a lot. Tell me about the new EP. So we've heard "Brace Yourself." When are we going to get some more Red Jumpsuit in our lives?
Good question. You know how it goes. So like there are certain, I like to just tell people the truth. There are certain kind of systems in place when you want to put songs out. And because we don't have a big record label, we have to try to take advantage of every single one of those that companies like Apple Music and Spotify and YouTube put out there. So with that being said, there's an X number of days, or a bracket, if you will, that you can be considered for said playlist or features. So if it wasn't for that, we would have just dropped the whole thing. So it's important for me, for the fans to know that. But when we play along, when we play by the rules, and this is a life lessons that I think for anybody who cares to take it in, that I didn't learn for a long time, and I'm doing it now, and it's working really well for me, is when you play along and you follow the rules and you do what they ask you to do, cool things happen. So we're getting a ton of features, and here I am talking to you again, and there's all this interest happening, and I'm seeing the system work to my advantage because I'm just playing along and I'm not being a pouty little brat about it, saying, oh, I want to do it now. And that's the only reason there's not new music out now. As soon as the next window opens for that next release, we will put out another song. They're all already ready, and then we'll drop the rest of the EP. So I want to say, you can't quote me on this, but in less than 90 days, I think the full thing will be out. So that's one more single and then the rest of the EP. And that's pretty good. That's we're getting close. But, again, if Brace Yourself has wings, as they say, we may not rush that because we don't have to right now, So we're just actually watching how people are reacting.
Yeah, and you're in the unique position of being an artist that has an international audience. So like you mentioned, first line workers in other countries taking to Brace Yourself and stuff. So I feel like sometimes in the States, it's easy to get very focused on our immediate audience, the immediate community of music fans here. But you guys have audiences all over the world. We don't necessarily always know how people in Germany or China or England or wherever are embracing a new single and like how well it's working there versus maybe we don't see as much here, but over there it's the biggest hit in the world. And that's something that is really fascinating that we don't really get a lot of insight into as fans here in the States.
True. And I'll tell you who does pay attention to it, though, the artist. So, like me, for instance, if you've been doing this as long as we have or longer, you're eventually going to put out a record that's not received well. And it just happens. It's impossible. It's almost like you're not a real artist unless that's happened to you. So when that does happen, the first thing that you do is look and see if there's anywhere where it did do well. And you become aware. Right? And then you learn how much different those fans are. Another example of that from the same record, not to talk about that one the whole time, but a song called Cat and Mouse. Again, we did not It wasn't a single. Years later, it was put on a TV show called Vampire Diaries, and now it's a very, very popular song in the U.S. But in the U.S., when we played that song, people would go to the bathroom and, and go get a beer or go out and smoke, because we're over here playing piano. Like, this is like Face Down, In Fate's Hands, like emo punk band. And then we're playing a piano ballad. I mean, some people literally didn't like it. And then, fast forward, that same person, like 6 years later, is screaming it at the top of their lungs. It's one of their favorite songs. So, and that's a ballad that took off on its own in the Philippines specifically. They made that song famous. They chose that song and made it famous without our choice. And then it bounced from the Philippines to Japan, it bounced from Japan to Malaysia and all over Southeast Asia. And then after that, the whole record followed. So, but what's interesting is, if you ever see us play over there, a live stream or anything, watch the reaction to Cat and Mouse. You won't believe it. It's really unbelievable. You have to see it. And the same type of thing goes for Australia. There's a couple of different songs over there from each release. Luckily, in those countries, specifically in that whole region, all of our records have done well, and all of our tours have done well. So we like going there, and we go there more than most people.
Well, I mean, I'm glad to see your continuing success, and I'm excited to hear the rest. I've been poking at Ed, your publicist, to be like, let me just hear a little bit more of what he's got cooking. But he's a tough dam to break.
He didn't let you hear one. I'm excited to get some feedback. I definitely
okay.
I will convince him. I promise I will. I'll push for at least one. There's 3 more, maybe 4.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we talk pretty often, so I'll be like, listen, Ron says it's cool. Everyone here heard it first. Before I let you go, man. I'm nervous now. No, don't be nervous about it. Before I let you go, because who knows if we'll talk again in 2 months. Maybe we will. I mean, if this schedule works out, we might be looking at each other again in July.
Exactly.
Let me know, man. What do you think when someone comes up to you and tells you that they have a band? What is the thing that you always tell them to do to make sure they do? Whether or not it's like, this is how to succeed, but what is your very top line? This is something you need to know if you really want to do this for a career.
I do get asked that a lot, especially because we are a band that people know was real. People would be like, oh, this guy left the band and that guy left the band. They don't have original members. Our original lineup never played one show. That's a fact about the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. My bass player joined the military. He went to boot camp. Before we played our first show, I was like, oh, there goes our bass player. My drummer quit and went back to college, and now he's a pharmacist, and he makes more money than all of us. His name was Brent. So again, drummer, bass player gone. So from day one till now, it's just been me and my friends and my brother Randy, and basically Joey. Joey's pretty much been there the whole time. So with that being said, what I tell people is, I try to just be super real with them right away. Because if I'm walking in a hallway and they got to me somehow, they really want to know. They want to know some kind of nugget of truth. They don't want you to just walk by and be like, you practice every day, young man, and you'll be great. You can do anything. Believe in your dreams. I'm sorry, but that's just not reality. So I really I want to help this kid, whoever he or she is. So I'll look them in the eye and say, the best advice I can give you is, if this is your very first band, not everybody's probably going to make it. And if they don't, that's all right, as long as you don't give up. And that is how Ronnie Winter made it to where he is today. And I was pushed there, by a power greater than myself, but that's how I got here. And I brought my friends with me, and they changed over the years, and they may change again. And I hope that they don't, but the people who understand what I'm saying right now, they'll make it.
I mean, I think that's great advice, and we can go back to our Ataris reference as well. Chris is the Ataris at the end of the day in a lot of ways. There's other band members.
That's right.
It's far more rare. I remember seeing Bob Seger last year, and he has band members that were with him since 1967, and you're like, listen, that is the outlier. that is not the regular. Well, man, I appreciate you so much. I like that we get 20, 25 minutes every couple of months to chat with one another. Brace yourselves out now. Emergency EP soon, and one day you'll be on the road again, theoretically.
That's right.
Until then, take care of yourself, take care of the family, and I'll talk to you again soon.
All right, man. It's a pleasure as always. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take it easy.